Warriors Home Improvement Show, built by Parr Lumber. When it comes to big or small projects around the home, Tony and Corey have got the know-how and the answers to make your life just a bit easier. Here they are, your Weekend Warriors, Tony and Corey.
Hey, welcome to the Weekend Warriors Home Improvement Show, built by Parr Lumber. I'm Corey Valdez.
And I'm Tony Cookston.
Thanks for tuning in with us today. We've got another great show lined up for you.
Indeed.
You know, Tony, spring is around the corner.
It's not just around the corner. Literally, Corey.
It's this week.
It is next Wednesday. Yeah. This coming up Wednesday.
Spring
is the
will
first day of
sprung.
Spring will have sprung. And I know it doesn't feel like it could possibly already be here, but the fact is, you know, time is what it is. Groundhog Day revealed not an extended winter.
Oh, really?
That's right. So here we are, springtime, and we got to be talking about all those things that spring brings.
Like spring break.
Like spring break, that's right.
Woo!
If you haven't already given some consideration to what your children will be doing on spring break, I've got a list of home maintenance tips for you. There are definitely things around the house that need to be done around springtime, around spring break time.
I know.
That,
are you doing anything for spring break?
Get those kids busy. I will. No, I'm working.
I'm taking the week off.
Unfortunately, I don't get spring break away from work. I have to go to work.
Well,
so.
I took the vacation time.
Oh,
My kids are off school, so it was either we pay a sitter or daycare a ton of money to watch them both during the week, or we take the week off and we go on vacation and spend that money on vacation.
Yeah, you're spending the money either way. How are you going to spend it? Yeah.
So we're taking them to San Diego.
Oh, okay. Well, my kids are moved out and they have jobs, and they will also not be getting a break for spring. So yeah, but I'll tell you what, if your kids are at home and you don't have something, or they don't have something better to do, this would certainly be a good idea. You can take some notes from today's show and give them a list of things, and then you can reward them handsomely, right?
Like with power wash my driveway. Yeah. That's a good reward.
That's the reward. What was the work that they had to do to get that reward?
Power wash the roof.
Oh, I see.
So they clean the roof. They can power wash the driveway.
Yeah, yeah. And the reward is the feeling, the overwhelming feeling of accomplishment when the project is done.
Totally.
Right? That's exciting. And you're not charging them rent to live in the house. So that's another good thing.
They're going to want you to pay them, though, to do all that stuff.
Yeah. Today is definitely the day that we'll be talking about those types of things in spring. Here's a common misconception, I feel like. Corey and I had this conversation off air. We have believed, you know, in the past, Corey and I had this little conversation about that fall time was the right time to prune your trees. But there is definitely an argument for not pruning your trees in the fall, but pruning your trees in the spring before they start to bloom. So late winter or early spring. And so this is a time to get out there and prune some of those trees that have, you know, gotten some suckers over the period of time. You don't want to have those suckers blooming, so you lop them off, and then the main portion of the tree that you want to bloom will have an opportunity to bloom.
You definitely don't want suckers co-hosting a show with you.
Yes, you don't. Corey knows that better than anyone. That's absolutely true.
But no, you make a good point, because we found out that when you're pruning your trees, you definitely want to do it when the tree is not in grow mode.
Right.
You want to do it in the wintertime. And the thing about pruning them in the fall or late summer, what happens is that tells the tree to start growing. When you prune it, it kind of goes into grow mode right as it's trying to go into dormant mode. Yeah, so you don't want to prune it in the fall. You want to wait till the middle of winter or early spring. So right now probably would be a pretty good time to prune.
Yeah.
Especially if your tree is a late bloomer, like a late summer blooming tree. You want to wait definitely till probably early spring, like right now.
Yeah, it's a good time. I know that we've got a tree in the backyard that sort of has this cute little snowball shape at the top, and the stalk of the tree, you know, is bare like it's supposed to be. But somehow during that growth, you know, it starts to pick up those suckers on the bottom, and now suddenly it's losing its really pretty little snowball shape. So the time to trim that and back into a little cute little snowball, lop off those suckers is right now before it starts to bloom.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of pruning. I drive through my neighborhood and it drives me crazy because I see these houses where these trees are literally growing in to the side of their homes,
Yeah.
or growing into their eaves or growing over their roofs. It is extremely important for many reasons that we're going to talk about today to have those things trimmed back. You never want to have any sort of shrubbery touching your home.
Yeah.
If it's touching your home, it needs to be cut back. If it's growing over your house, it needs to be cut back. I mean, there are houses, minutes from my house. You could see them probably from my driveway, where people have like entire gardens growing on their roof made out of moss.
Trees growing out of their gutters.
Living in the Pacific Northwest, we know, living in the Portland area, the Valley,
Everything grows. Yeah.
It rains a ton here. So yeah, if you have any of those sorts of things, it just exacerbates those problems. But you're also inviting critters, you're inviting bugs. It's like a superhighway just to get into your home. So you never want to keep that stuff too long. You want to have it trimmed back. And again, now's the time to do it.
Just from that statement alone, I kind of envision you as the guy who would just sort of nonchalantly swing by the house, knock on the door and say, "Hey, buddy, you're supposed to trim those trees back. Yeah, you're not supposed to, let them just grow into the house." So, I'm
not that guy.
Are you not?
No.
But you're thinking it, so you're almost that guy.
Well, I look at them and I say, man, you need to trim that stuff. I'm not going to knock on their door.
I never want to think that I have neighbors that drive by my house and go, "Oh, that house. Yeah, that guy
didn't paint his house for 12 years."
That guy. Yeah, I don't want to be that guy. That's all I'm saying. So these are good tips. Here's another thing just to throw it out there. We've of course got a list of things we want to talk about. But believe it or not, it's time to pull out the lawnmower and put your snowblower in the shed. You know what I mean?
If you have one, yeah.
I can't believe it's lawnmower time already.
Well, it's not lawnmower time yet. You never want to start mowing too early, but what you probably should be pulling out is the fertilizer.
Well, you certainly don't want to wait until the day it's time to mow to make sure that your lawnmower is up and running.
Oh, no, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you want to get that thing out.
Get it tuned up.
And tune it up. And we're actually going to talk about some of the idiosyncrasies with tuning up your lawnmower and some of the things that cause it not to want to start after it's been sitting for a long time.
Like ethanol?
Yeah. Ugh. That stuff is terrible.
A lot of people don't know that the gasoline you buy from your local gas station, most of it anyway, has ethanol in it, which is, a derivative of corn. They make ethanol out of corn. And you'll see a lot of them, it'll say like E15 or E10 or some of those things where it's 10% ethanol or 15% ethanol. That stuff is murder.
Yeah.
On your small engines. Your car, your trucks, those things can run on it. They're designed to run on it. But your small engines, you got to get ethanol free. And it's kind of hard to find, actually.
We're going to talk about that and so much more as soon as we come back. You're listening to Tony Core, Your Weekend Warriors Spring Home and Maintenance Show. We'll be right back. Parr Lumber is committed to providing the best customer service. We provide personal service. We're problem solvers. We're positive and courteous. We're competent and professional. We are committed to delivering exceptional service every time. We're appreciative and we care. We are Parr Lumber.
Hey, welcome back to the Weekend Warriors Home Improvement Show. Thanks for staying with us. Today on the show, we're talking about spring. Spring is about to be here this week. So we've got a whole list of things that you should probably be thinking about now and getting outside and doing. We talked about a little bit of pruning in the last segment, but we were talking about fertilizing the lawn and waking that thing up. And you had mentioned getting out there and mowing, but I actually misunderstood you because you were talking about cleaning out your carburetor and getting that thing ready. But we should talk about the lawn a little bit.
Well, I know for years I had a lawnmower that would give me grief every single time I pulled it out in the springtime. right? I would pull my lawnmower out the first time I wanted to mow. And of course, I didn't give myself enough time to mow already. And then I pull it out and I can't start it. And I just haven't had, back then in the day, I didn't have a good list of steps to follow in order to sort of address the issues that my lawnmower was having. So eventually what I did was I threw that thing away and I went and got a new one. And then, the thing is, you buy a new lawnmower, it seems to start regardless for 5 or 6 years before it starts to have problems because you didn't take care of it properly in the fall. So basically, we want to talk a little bit about why your lawnmower might not want to start when you pull it out in the spring, and you don't want to wait until the first time that you plan to mow to kind of hassle with your lawnmower. That was my thought process.
Yeah. What a lot of people probably don't know, and I think we mentioned this in the first segment, is that ethanol is not good for your small engines. It will create water built up in there. It will separate. And a lot of times what can happen is it'll eat away the tubing and gaskets inside of your small engine, causing like the whole inside of your carburetor and fuel bowl to be filled with this goo and this gunk. And if it gets bad enough, which
it varnishes in there.
It essentially turns into varnish.
And then it doesn't allow the necessary fuel to get to the spark plug, which allows it to fire.
Yeah. Or what can really happen in like really bad situations is the fuel separate and the alcohol will all be sitting on the bottom. And then as soon as you pull that thing, it sucks all the alcohol into the carburetor. And since alcohol burns at a much hotter temperature, it can blow up your engine.
Yikes.
So
that's
what
expensive.
you want to do is use ethanol-free gas. Sometimes you can buy it at the hardware store. They sell it on the shelf, just like a normal can of oil. You can buy, or you can buy it at certain gas stations. And there's websites around there. If you use the search engine and search ethanol-free gas stations, a lot of times they only sell it in premium.
Mm-hmm.
The gas stations I've seen that sell it, but that website is pretty slick. I can't remember the name of it, but you just search in your area and it tells you all the gas stations that sell ethanol-free gas.
Another way to avoid that, of course, is when you put your lawnmower away in the fall, and I know we had this conversation
absolutely.
During the show in the fall, is to drain the fuel out of the lawnmower and store it with a dry tank. I've heard people talk, defend having the tank completely full or completely empty, but not partially full. But ultimately, if you've left fuel in there, it's been in there for months and months, your better bet, in my opinion, is to drain the lawnmower in the fall. And then when you pull it out in the spring, it's empty and ready for fresh gas.
Yeah, no, you make a good point. And I've heard that before. Well, if you fill it up, it won't allow moisture into the gas can or in the gas tank. But it's kind of a misinformation because ethanol will actually absorb water. So if you have ethanol gas in your small gas can or gas tank, it's going to suck in water.
Yeah,
so,
interesting.
Bad deal all the way around.
So if you pull your lawnmower out and you can't get it started because maybe you left fuel in there and maybe it had ethanol in it and maybe it's caused some issues, right? You're going to have to do a little bit of maintenance to that.
Yeah, I've had to do it to all of my small engines, to be honest. You buy them brand new, you spend a lot of money on them, and you can't figure out what's going on. And a couple times before I knew about the ethanol situation, I took them in, and I paid some guy
too much money.
Yeah, $80-100 to run through.
$80-100? Woo, that's a lot of money. I'm just kidding.
80 to 100.
I got you.
Bucks to go through and rebuild a small engine on my $350 lawnmower or whatever to make it run again.
Yeah.
And then it's running great for a year, maybe 2, and then it's back at it again. And then you're like, oh, this lawnmower is junk. I'm gonna go buy a more expensive one. But that's not the problem. It's the gas. And like Tony said, run it out of gas in the fall completely. That's what I did this year or last year. I took my lawnmower and I mowed the grass with it. And I put just a tiny bit in there to finish, and then I let that sucker run right out so it was completely bone dry. I did it with my pressure washer and my blower.
Yeah, same goes for your chainsaw, your weed eater, those things that have maybe even a little tiller, if you've got a little tiller, those small engines, just get the gas out of them. I mean, I have to do the exact same thing with my quads. I've got four-wheelers, all-terrain vehicles, and I don't want to store gas in those tanks either. They have plastic tanks, but even so, I don't want to leave fuel in there.
Yeah. And if for some reason you do, I learned taking your small engine in to get it repaired and have those guys go through it. I learned how to do it myself. It's not that difficult to take the carburetor off, take the bowl out, and you can get carb cleaner, and clean all that stuff out of there. I actually had to use a small pick to get the goo out of there. So, and it worked like a charm.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally took me an hour, and I got my mower back up and running no problem. But you know what I did last year? Actually, I forgot to talk about this. Is over the winter, I bought I bought a Milwaukee trimmer, and I bought a Milwaukee blower.
But they're battery operated.
They're battery operated.
And you don't have to worry about that small engine stuff at all.
Dude, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I have that's gas left is my mower. And I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll swap that out in the next couple years.
Yeah. Smart. Okay. So when I was talking about pulling the mower out, you were like, hang on a second. Before we're ready to pull the lawnmower out and start mowing, we want to wake up the lawn. And I know that from years past, I didn't know a lot about landscaping or keeping up on my plants or my lawn, but Corey has taught me a lot, and I have retained some of that information. And I know that you want to wake up your lawn in the springtime with some sort of a fertilizer. But before you put your spring fertilizer on, you want to get after it with a rake.
Well, yes, you're absolutely right. But, to be honest, spring is not the time to fertilize your lawn. You should have done that in the fall. That is the best time to fertilize your lawn.
That's putting your lawn to sleep, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you fertilize it in the fall, you don't need to fertilize it in the spring.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought you did both.
Nope. No,
right.
You don't need to in the spring if you fertilize it in the fall. If you didn't in the fall, you can fertilize it in the spring. You can put some nitrogen and whatnot on there, but
definitely you're going after the first thing you're going to do out there in the lawn
is rake.
Yes. Because you're going to get some of that thatch probably. I think that in the fall show that we talked about getting after your lawn with a hard tined rake and getting that thatch out of there, but you have snowpack sometimes and stuff that causes that grass to fall down, and then you'll have some more thatch. So you want to get out there and dig up that thatch to open up the dirt. And then, of course, if it's necessary, if you've got hard pack, like I've got in my backyard in some places where I simply can't get any seeds to take, then maybe that's where you need to get in and do some aerating.
Yeah, aerating is a good idea. What that is I always have a company come out and do it for me. I mean, it's pretty inexpensive for them to aerate your lawn for you. Usually costs $30-$40, and I'll have them aerate and dethatch my lawn. But if you have a power aerator, all it is cutting these big plugged holes into your lawn. And sometimes you've seen it on big fields where they look like there's maybe a flock of geese that came in there for a week. But
yeah,
that really helps unpack it.
Well, I wonder sometimes if I can just, I play softball. I wonder if sometimes I can just put on my cleats, my softball cleats, and run around out there with my spiked cleats and tear it up a little bit.
That's a terrible idea.
We got some more tips on this when we come back. You're listening to Tony and Corey, your Weekend Warriors. Don't go away. Tony and Corey, your Weekend Warriors, with a great quick tip for you. Corey and I are here building this mobile collapsible workbench, and we were just cutting 2x4, 1.5 inch thick, with his circular saw. Most circular saws come with an adjustable depth cut, and you need to have 1.5 inches or 2 inches to cut through 2x4, but we're moving now to 3/4 inch plywood, and we want to shallow up the depth of that cut so that that blade is not hanging out there when we're cutting something, potentially interacting with something that's underneath the surface that we're working with. It can be dangerous, and this is a safety measure that you should use every opportunity you get. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll catch you next time.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. Thanks for staying with us. Today we're talking about spring. Spring has sprung, spring cleaning. We've talked about your lawn in the last couple segments, but we wanted to take a second. If you haven't already, go check out our social media stuff. We're recording this show right now for YouTube, and we are recording our video podcasts on there. We're doing how-to videos on there. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at WW Home Show. So check that out. Or the easiest thing to do is to go to our website. That's www.homeshow.com. And you can do that. Or you can go to Parr, Parr.com. Click on the Weekend Warriors link. If you want to email us, you can email us at weekendwarriors@parr.com.
And send us
Super
emails. Yeah, we get lots of emails from our listeners, and we love to get them. I actually heard from a listener the other day who was listening on KVI in Seattle. Woohoo, KVI in Seattle. And he was listening to our auxiliary dwelling unit show.
Yeah, our ADU show.
Yep, and he had some questions about it. He loved the show. I didn't get to catch it all. Wanted to know where he could pick it up on podcast. And then he had some questions, and we had a great conversation. And I really enjoy that. It's always fun to have a listener reach out, whether they have questions or comments, concerns, whatever it might be. Maybe you just want to make fun of Corey's facial hair. All very well accepted. So love that.
It's funny because your facial hair is a little more funnier than mine.
Yeah, it is. It is funny.
So if you want to see that, you can go check it out on YouTube.
I like to keep it funny.
I actually got a email from a guy listening in Spokane on KXLY.
Oh, really?
He listened to the same ADU
Nice.
show.
KXLY in Spokane. Woo!
I directed him over to the YouTube page because he wanted to watch that show or listen to it again. So that's a good place to do that.
Yeah,
so
killer.
Thanks for checking us out.
We were talking a little bit
Yes.
about, before we went to the break, we were talking a little bit about the lawn. I said fertilize. You said no. I said rake. You said yes. And then I put on my cleats and I ran around my backyard to sort of aerate it.
That's right.
But there's a lot of things actually outside that you want to do with your lawn. But let's take a minute and take a step forward, right? You said you don't want to jump out and mow your lawn right now. Instead, you want to
wait. You want to wait.
You want to wait. You want to rake up that thatch, and you want to let it start getting some growth. The fact is that we tend to go out and mow as soon as we can see that it's growing. As soon as the green starts to come up, we're thinking, ooh, let's get out there and make the lawn all the same level. You know how early spring growth.
Oh, and it's always so lush.
You get high points
nice.
and low points and, some weird stuff. And you just want to go out and make it all level and give it a nice haircut. Well, here's the thing. Hold on. You want to wait until your blades are about 4 inches long because you don't want to cut them shorter than 3 inches. And the reason why that is because if you cut off too much of the blade, right, more than 1/3, I think, then you're inhibiting root growth. And really what it needs right now is root growth. When grass grows, it grows up and it grows down. And so if you're cutting it off too soon, then you're stunting its root growth. And because then it's going to take all of its nutrients and it's going to grow up. And what you really want it to do is grow down. So instead, wait until it's about 4 inches long and then just take off 1 inch, leaving about 3 inches of grass. And this is really what we're talking about for your first mow of the spring. So
for the rest of the year, you want to keep your lawn as long as possible. You don't want it too long, but around 3 inches is perfect. I see too many times people are, cutting their lawn way too short, and you're doing a couple things there. You're essentially taking away all of the food, and then you're damaging the grass so that it prevents or it makes it grow more tissue that needs more food.
Right.
So there's a lot of things with keeping your lawn just a little bit longer than too short.
Yeah.
And the other thing, when it's too short, you need to water it way too much. So when it's a little bit longer, you don't have to water it as much. So
I feel like people think that they want to cut it shorter so they don't have to mow it as often.
Yeah.
But ultimately, even though that may be true, you're not promoting a healthy lawn, and that's really important.
I'll tell you what about one of my biggest blunders. You want to hear one of my biggest blunders?
I always want to hear your biggest blunders.
Oh, man. At my old house, I used to have this little house. We loved the backyard, and I spent so much time working on it. And I resodded everything. And we got the grass just looking killer. I had it smooth and flat, and I had it sloped, and it was great. And so I had it all done. And one season, I threw this party. We were having a summer party, and we wanted to play bocce out in the yard, and I wanted a nice, we had some cornhole boards out there, so I had this whole like outdoor scene set up. And it was in the middle of summer, like July or August or something like that.
You were feeling good.
I was. The lawn looked great. But because we were going to play some bocce ball, I wanted the grass to be a little bit shorter. I was thinking, oh, I'm going to make this look, really nice and tight, just low grass so we could be able to see the ball. And that was the biggest mistake I ever made. I cut that thing down to probably like 2 inches, maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches. It was so short. It looked unbelievable right when I was done with it. Got up the next day, we had the party, and the very next day, the entire lawn was brown.
Oh, no.
It took almost a year for that to come back and look normal again.
Yikes.
It was a huge mistake, so don't cut your lawn too short.
Yeah, that's anyway, we have the tendency to do it. Everybody wants to get out and start mowing their lawn the first time, and they want to be the first guys out there, and we understand that temptation, but we're just telling you to hold off a little bit longer. Here's another great tip for you. Along with getting your lawnmower out and getting it ready for its first mow, here's something else you need to do. You need to address the sharpness of the blade. The lawnmower blade needs to be sharpened. It should probably be sharpened, I don't know, more often than I do mine, but it should be sharpened at the very least every year. So if you're going to get it out and make sure that it's running properly, you should sharpen that blade. Now, Corey and I are on different ends about how you should address that. In my case, I took the blade off, and actually the last time I did it myself, but so many times before that, I just took it down to a place where they sharpen blades, and they sharpened it for me. And it wasn't terribly expensive, but the last time I did it, I sharpened it in place on the mower, and I felt like it was harder to do. And Corey's like, "Nah, it's not hard. Just prop that mower up and go after it with your battery operated grinder."
Yeah, that's how I do it. I turn the mower on its side, and I grab my battery operated grinder, and I just hit that thing a couple times and sharpen it up, and it works pretty good for me. I could see where if it was in really bad shape, like if you hadn't sharpened it in a while, yeah, take the thing off and put it on a bench grinder. It's probably a little bit better way to do that.
It can, apart from looking at the blade itself, it can be easy to tell whether or not your blade is sharp when you look at the blades of grass after you've cut. If you've got jagged ends on the blades of grass, then you've essentially been bludgeoning it.
That's true.
It's like trying to mow your lawn with a bat. Yeah,
if you're mowing your lawn and after a couple days it kind of has a brown hue to it,
yeah,
that is literally from bludgeoning the grass blades, until they break. You're just breaking the tips of the grass blades off rather than slicing or cutting them.
Yeah.
In that little bit, what you're doing is you're allowing that grass to not hold as much water and nutrients.
Yeah.
And then it's, that tear makes it look brown. It gives that whole lawn a brown hue.
Yeah. So get that blade and get it sharp. If you don't have your own grinder, just take it off, take it down to the hardware store or wherever they sharpen blades. You can take it into a Parr lumber company. Parr lumber will send it out and have it sharpened. We send out circular saw blades and all kinds of blades, planer blades, to have them sharpened. Take it into a Parr lumber, drop it off. They'll get it sharpened for you and get it back to you. And then you'll definitely have a happier, more healthy lawn if you're cutting it with a sharper blade.
I do have one last tip about your lawn mower.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did this on the last mower that I bought. I went out and got a mower with the side chute. I don't collect the clippings anymore. You let them go back onto your lawn because it'll give you two things. It'll add those nutrients that you just cut off, put them back into the soil, and it'll all the moisture that's in there as well, so you don't have to water as much. Especially, that really helps in those hot months.
It's just important that you do it as religiously, because if you wait until it's too long, you're gonna end up with clumps of grass and then you'll be raking.
Totally.
We gotta take another quick break. When we come back, more tips for spring home maintenance and spring cleaning. You're listening to Tony and Corey, your weekend warriors. We'll be right back.
Tony, the next thing we need to do is put up what's called nail stops. When the sheetrocker comes in here, he's going to want to put a sheetrock up with screws or nails. And if he drives it through where there's an electrical wire, that could cause a disaster, a fire, all kinds of situations.
Are we going to run into a problem if we're using nail stops and he's using screws?
Not at all.
Do we need screw stops?
I think they'll stop both.
Okay, good.
So let's put these up here. We're going to, everywhere where there's a piece of wire that comes through a stud or through the top plate, we need to install one of these to protect that wire.
Absolutely. We don't want any electrified screws.
We're going to put this over here where the wires come down through the top plate and nail them on. And that's it. Hey, welcome back to the Weekend Warriors Home Improvement Show. Thanks for staying with us. Today we're talking about spring and all the things you need to get prepared for. We've been talking about the lawn a lot, and it's important. You know, I like my lawn. The last thing I want to say about it is to kill the weeds before they germinate. If you want to be, you know, wrestling with the weeds for the entire year or the rest of the summer, wait. But by all means, wait.
Yeah. If you don't want to be dealing with dandelions and those little puffy things, what do you call those? Those little puff balls of seeds, and you blow on it.
Seeds?
And
yeah,
then
dandelions.
Huh?
Dandelions.
Well, a dandelion's a flower.
Yeah, but then they turn into the little
That's
ball
the
of-
exact same flower that turns into that ball of seeds?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Dandelions curl in, and then the little seeds come out.
I used to pick those when I was a kid and blow on it and watch all the little seeds fly away. Had no
probably call
idea
them
that
something
every
else.
one of those seeds was going to be another dandelion. You know, you just can't wait until the dandelions go to seed.
Your dad yelling at you.
Yeah, that's not good. So instead of doing that, that's a Tony maneuver. Do a Corey thing and get out there and weed or use some sort of weed control on your lawn before they germinate. That's super smart.
That's the best time to do it.
Yeah.
Get them before they start. The summer hits.
I agree with that. So what else is going on outside besides the lawn?
Well, if you've got a deck, you know, you're probably looking at that thing and it's probably got some mildew on it, might have some moss growing on it.
It's definitely dusty and dirty for sure.
I've got a patio that I put in, and over this winter, it really got dirty. I mean, with all the trees and all the wind and all the rain and all the stuff, I mean, that patio is starting to look a little green, a little dark in areas. So I'm going to get that thing pressure washed. You probably wouldn't pressure wash a wood deck.
I wouldn't pressure wash a wood deck, although people do it. It's the thing is you can use a pressure washer on your deck if you have done it before and you did it without incident and you're okay with it. The problem is the first time you get out there and do it and you get too close or it's turned up too high, you can damage your boards permanently.
Yeah.
And then eventually you can't walk on your deck in your bare foot or in your sock feet because you step on those, those hard, that sort of feathers it back, and then it becomes rough and undesirable. So the best thing to do really is to just not use a pressure washer. You can do it with detergent and a stiff bristled broom. That's really all you need.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. And then just hose it off.
Warm soapy water, a stiff bristled brush, or you can go to Parr Lumber Company and pick up a deck brush where the bristles kind of wrap around the head of the brush, and it makes it easier. It's stiff bristled. But if you're going to use a pressure washer, keep it back. Don't let the nozzle get too close to the wood. Keep it back to 16 inches probably, and make sure that you're not hitting it with a super heavy stream. You want to have a fan and just use it sparingly because it can damage the wood. And you know what? The same goes for composite decking. It can damage composite decking, and that's expensive.
Well, the same really goes for anything when using a pressure washer, unless you're pressure washing, concrete. It's pretty difficult to. You definitely can.
You can etch concrete with a pressure washer. I think people underestimate sometimes the power of a pressure washer. If your plan is to go out and get a new pressure washer and then use it for all these things, I'm telling you, be very cautious because it definitely can damage your stuff.
Well, and there's different tips that you can get. Sometimes they're adjustable. My pressure washer has an adjustable tip that goes from a wide fan to a very, very tight stream. And that stream, it'll it could cut a finger off.
Absolutely.
No joke.
Yeah, you can.
It would etch the paint on my vehicle.
Yeah.
That is no joke. So
yeah, you can engrave your initials in your concrete driveway with that thing.
yeah, I always put mine on the fan, sometimes a little bit tighter when I'm doing the concrete, but I'll tell you what my favorite tool is. It's a specialized tool for cleaning surfaces. Is I have an attachment that I got at Parr Lumber Company. I think it's made by Karcher.
Yep, that's right.
For my pressure washer.
Was that thing about 2 foot round?
No, it's probably about 12. It's not very big. I mean, it may be 16 inches in diameter.
Okay.
But it's got a spinning nozzle, 2 spinning nozzles inside of it, right? So the instead of the pressure washer just hitting with one, it has this spinning nozzle that spins super fast, and it cleans, and it's got bristles around the perimeter of it. So as you're holding it down, the water doesn't just go flying everywhere, and it does a great job.
Nice.
I mean, I can clean my entire patio in no time.
Yeah. Well, I've seen them. They're very cool. I've never used one myself, but
I do want to give you one more tip.
Yeah, give it
Sorry,
to
I
me.
just thought of this. If you're doing a lot of pressure washing, go buy yourself an extension for the handle.
No, that's a good idea.
Have you ever pressure washed something for more than 20 minutes bent over?
Oh, yeah.
And then you go to stand up and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
crack.
Absolutely.
It's awful.
Especially me. I'm super tall, so
Yeah,
I deal with that pretty regularly.
you can go out and buy. I bought it for my my surface cleaner, the round surface cleaner.
Yeah.
I bought, a 3-foot extension nozzle for it. And then that goes on my handle, which my handle's like 2 feet. So I could literally just stand there and not have to do any sort of bending. It's fantastic.
Here's something I want to amend the thing that I said before about cleaning your deck with a stiff bristle brush and some detergent. That's how you clean your deck. Now, after your deck is clean, you might say, man, it's not as bright as I want it to be. I really want it to look like it did when it was brand new. There is a possibility you could get it to be brighter by using Deck Brightener. They literally make a product called Deck Brightener that you can put on there. It's specifically intended to bring back the original color of your deck, right? Your raw wood decking. So don't just take your pressure washer and keep getting closer and closer and closer, trying to find that lighter color.
Light cedar brown color again.
There is a specific product, but brightening your deck and cleaning your deck are really 2 different things. You need to clean your deck, and then you can brighten it after that. But cleaning it is a separate thing. So those are just some notes. Talk to me, Corey, about watering your lawn. I mean, you have an irrigation system, right? And in the fall, when you decided you were done watering your lawn, you did some maintenance or some preparation for putting your irrigation system to bed. And now it's probably time for you to start thinking about getting that up and running again. Not that you're going to be watering today, but what better time to start preparing for bringing water?
Well, yeah, if you did it properly, you would have drained out and turned off all of your sprinklers. The last thing you want to do if you have underground sprinklers is leave water in them over the winter because they'll expand and break. And next thing you know, you turn your sprinklers on in the summer when it starts getting hot again, and the rain becomes scarce.
And they're just bubbling water out, or they're shooting it straight up in the air.
If you've ever broken a sprinkler head off and seen the amount of erosion that happens in no time, I mean, I had it where it wasn't shooting water out of the ground, but it started, digging a hole underneath the ground. And I didn't notice it right away. Yeah. And next thing you know, man, there's a cavern down there that's completely empty. So keep in mind, you should have done that in the fall. But if you've done it properly, wait time to get your sprinklers going again. Get them as long as there's no more freezing days left. I don't think there should be. But yeah, get everything running again. After you turn them on, make sure that you've adjusted all of them so they're not sprinkling the driveway,
right,
or the sidewalks or the street. I see all the time, where summer hits, they don't have the proper maintenance on their sprinklers. And half of the time the sprinklers
they're watering the sidewalks,
out in the street, getting the cars. I mean, you're just wasting water at that point.
And upsetting the local joggers and dog walkers. They have to
totally
leave the sidewalk because you're sprinkling it. Yeah.
So,
but again, just like the lawnmower and the other tools, you don't want to wait until the day that you're ready to water to decide this is the day that I need to, make sure that my sprinklers are working and everything has been inspected and nothing's broken and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Tools that you're digging out of the shop. Here's another one, Corey. Rototiller. Because if you've got a garden and you want to grow something in your garden, this is a great opportunity to get your tiller out, go out there and put your first till on your garden. I mean, you might till it 3 or 4 times, but you can certainly at least get out there and get that started, get your tiller out, make sure that the engine's running properly, all those things we talked about with the mower and the chainsaw, and get that thing ready to go so you can plant your jalapeno.
Jalapenos? Oh,
Yes.
you make a good point with the tools, the yard tools. I have several yard tools that I like to keep maintenanced. If the handles are getting a little old, worse for wear, you can buy replacement handles. There's no reason to throw out a good tool when you can just buy an inexpensive handle, put it on there, like a shovel. I mean, I've broken shovel handles right in half, but the actual spade is in fine shape.
Mm-hmm.
You buy a new handle. Now's the time, not a bad time to do that. And if you're really, really ambitious, I've seen people sand the handles down and put a nice coat of varnish on them.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that's a little dedication there.
That's taking care of tools that you want to last, and these are probably not shovels you paid $5 for. We got to take another quick break. When we come back, more Spring Home Maintenance. You listen to Tony and Corey, your Weekend Warriors. We'll be right back.
Listening to the Weekend Warriors Home Improvement Show, built by Parr Lumber. When it comes to big or small projects around the home, Tony and Corey have got the know-how and the answers to make your life just a bit easier. Now, here's Tony and Corey.
Hey, welcome back to the Weekend Warriors Home Improvement Show. Thanks for staying with us. Today in the show, we're talking about spring. And we were outside talking about your lawnmower and your lawn and getting all those things squared away. What are some other things we should probably be doing outside? We talked a little bit about getting rid of the weeds, cleaning your deck. I will say that now is probably not the time to stain your deck. If you have a wood deck and you have a hardwood deck, even if you want to put a coat of stain on it, that wood has to be dry.
Right.
And for several days, dry. Not just, dry for a couple of hours, dry to the touch. You really want that thing to be dry. So if you're putting a coat of like Penafin on your hardwood deck, make sure it's there's a temperature range there too.
You want to be, in the,
It can't be getting down into the 50s at night. That's for sure.
Yeah, you want it to be a decently warm, dry couple of days in a row. You want to get a window of days. But I'll tell you what, even if you don't stain it or seal it or treat it, just clean it. At the very least, just clean it.
Just clean it.
And
Get it ready.
Here's something else. I feel like that over the last months, we have had dozens of colonies of spiders building webs. I feel like that every time I turn around my house, I'm walking into another spider web. Yeah. And while I feel bad about tearing down a spider's web, I feel, like that it could be considered job security. I mean, because, the spider's having an opportunity to go back up and spin yet another web. I mean, the next one might be better, right?
Maybe.
I mean, we're just helping him. We're giving him some physical, physical workout, right? Challenging his mind. Or her mind.
I don't think you need to exercise your spiders.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, I'm getting the cobwebs out of the corners underneath the eaves of the home. I don't like to see that up in there. And they've been collecting. So I'm going to take a garden hose. I'm going to put a sprayer nozzle on the end of it. And I'm going to spray around underneath the eaves around the house all the way around. I'm going to get rid of some of those spider webs and let them get a whole new fresh start. The spider webs are starting to get stale. And after all, there's plenty of time for new webs before October, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, there you go.
Right?
Well, what are some other things we need to do outside? I think we need to, since you're up there in the gutters or in the eaves, maybe get your gutters cleaned out.
Yeah.
I just cleaned mine out actually last week. I was up there finally taking my Christmas lights down.
Yeah, all right. Well, at least you didn't wait until May.
I know, wait till March to get my Christmas lights down. But, it's important.
Yeah.
And get those things cleaned out. There was a lot of debris in there, and I don't even have trees overhanging my home. But there just happens to be, all the wind and all this stuff collects in there, and it's never good. And we've talked about that so many times in the show.
Yeah.
But if another thing to look at while you're up there is take a look at the gutters themselves and see if they're sagging, if any of the fasteners are coming out. If they are, sometimes what will happen is that nail, it's a big gutter spike that goes into the, usually it's, sometimes it's into fascia board, but other times it's right into the tails of, say, your trusses or your roof rafters. And after those things go in and maybe get replaced or maybe work their way out, you nail them back in. Sometimes that opens up and it doesn't allow that nail to sit so tightly in there.
Right.
They make gutter screws. And what you do is you go out and buy these, 7 or 8 inch gutter screws, and they come with what's called a ferrule. And that round piece of aluminum or metal goes inside of the gutter. And then when you screw through it and tighten it down, it doesn't collapse the gutter.
Right. You might find, if you go to Parr Lumber and pick up gutter screws off the shelf, you might find that the ferrules are longer than your gutter is wide. A lot of times a 4-inch is a standard size K type gutter.
Mm-hmm.
And
or 5 inch.
These ferrules that come with Fasten Master gutter screws, these ferrules are 5 inches long. So you might have to get out your grinder or your jigsaw or your bandsaw or one of those tools, your hacksaw, and trim those up to make them 4 inches to fit inside your gutter. Or you could potentially run down to the hardware store and pick up some 4-inch ferrules. But a standard 4-inch ferrule for a gutter spike is smaller in diameter. Those screws are pretty big, and they take a big old ferrule. So just consider that. That might be some part of the responsibility if you decide to go with gutter screws. But gutter screws are amazing. And once you put those in, you probably won't ever have to deal with it again.
Yeah, your gutter won't be falling off, but now's the time to fix it.
Absolutely. While you're up there looking at your gutters, inspecting your gutters, cleaning your gutters, take a look at the shingles on the roof. Make sure that you don't have shingles that are up, if moss is growing underneath them and infiltrating underneath them, or if nails have popped and you can see the shingle is lifted up because something is underneath it. You want to drive those nails back down. You want to get that moss out from underneath there. You definitely don't want anything that's lifting up your shingles. Your shingles work when they're laying down and flat. That's how they work. And if you're missing some or they're starting to get something growing underneath them, you need to get that squared away.
Yeah, if you have any moss on your roof, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, moss on roofs is a problem. And you need to get that taken care of because once that moss builds up, like Tony said, they start to lift and then will actually draw water in. And when it draws water in, it's going to draw it up and then into your home.
Right.
I actually had this happen to my brand new roof where I had goop, moss and dirt and filth.
Organic material.
Yeah, collected around one of my roof vents. And just that little bit of goop there allowed the water to get in and flood my ceiling.
Yeah.
So I have a little project that I've yet to do, but it's sitting there that I have to fix. So
here's another little tip. The standard way we go about dealing with roof moss is you get some Moss Be Gone or some moss killer or whatever, whether it's a spray or a powder that you spread up there.
That's probably the most common.
You put that up there, it rains, that chemical runs down the roof and gets into that moss. The moss soaks it up and then the moss dies. And when it turns from green to brown, here's the thing. It's dead, right? Except if you don't get up there and broom it off or spray it off while it's dead, that same moss comes back to life next year. Dead moss is dormant until it gets an opportunity to grow again.
Is that true?
It's absolutely true. I'm telling you. Take my word for it.
I don't believe you.
Brown moss will become green moss if you don't broom it off of the roof.
That's a good tip, though. I mean, if you kill it and it turns brown or black, you're right.
It's like it's like The Walking Dead. I'm telling you,
it's a big clump.
You think it's dead, but it's so coming back to haunt you. You have to get it off the roof. So
you need to Rick Grimes your roof.
That's right. You definitely need to do that. Okay, so don't let that moss come back to haunt you. Kill it and then get it off. Okay, what else have we got? Anything else outside? What else is going on outside?
Well, Tony, we recently did last month or the month before, we did a video on this for our YouTube channel, and it's replacing a window screen.
Yeah.
Now's not a bad time because you're going to want to be opening your windows. If you've got a pet that has torn up your screen door like I did,
Or a child.
or a child, or whatever, or anything, and those screens are just old and worn out and ruined, they're pretty easy to fix. And again, Tony and I talked about this, but we got to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll have more. Let's go over that when we get back. We're ready to put this on the wall, but we have to make sure we put it in the right way. The insulation is made up with the fiberglass, and then this is called the vapor barrier, otherwise known as craft paper or craft face. Craft face insulation, the insulation fiberglass portion goes towards the wall, and then you should see the paper face when you're done.
There's a couple ways to attach this to the studs. You can pull this ear over and fasten it right onto the stud just like this. Or you can put this ear on the inside and fasten it to the inside of the stud. Both are acceptable. The sheetrocker would rather you have it on the inside than the outside in case the staples don't go all the way in.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. Thanks for staying with us. Today in the show, we're talking about spring. And we've been outside mowing the grass. Not yet, but getting ready to mow the grass. Getting everything ready. And, one of the other things, Tony, that we should probably be thinking about outside of the home is making sure your AC unit is operating correctly and clean. One of the things you can do is take the, the compressor that sits outside with the big fan, the cooling fan in there.
The condenser?
The condenser. Get that thing vacuumed and cleaned out, and make sure all the fan or the fins on that thing are all cleaned out. If they're all full of leaves or pine needles, it's a good time to do that. Take and wash everything off and make sure it's good to go. What I would do now is turn it on and make sure that it's blowing cold, because if you get into the middle of summer and it's hot, it's one of those 100+ degree days, and you want your AC and it's broke, you're going to pay a lot more to have the AC repair person come out and repair it in the middle of the summer than you would now. So now's a good time. It's just like when your furnace, the best time to get your furnace looked at is towards the end of summer rather than when it breaks.
Yeah,
in January.
Good time to replace your furnace filters. Springtime. Springtime's a good time to replace your furnace filters. Of course, you're going to put it to bed soon. You're going to stop using it. It's getting warmer, and you want there to be clean filters in there when you start using it again in the fall.
Well, during the winter months, I'm going to say during the winter months that you should probably be looking at replacing your furnace filter at least once a month.
Of course, those months are gone now.
But that's what I'm saying.
Right.
But during the winter months, you should be replacing it, at least once a month. So now that you've hit the spring, probably one last time. And it depends on how much you're using it. If you use it, to move as an air mover, still keep an eye on it through the summer.
Same thing goes with your fireplace. If you've got a fireplace, you use that to heat the house, or your pellet stove, or your wood stove. If these are the things you've been using to clean, to heat your house, and you're going to stop using them, clean them before you're done, and they'll be ready and raring to go in the fall.
Yeah. Another thing, Tony, is rodents.
Ooh, yeah. This is definitely a good time to get a hold of your pest control.
Yeah. We have
Contact.
Pest control. We have the killers come in. We just talked to those guys.
Matt White
with the killers. It's a good time to have him come on in the spring, and he told you why. So now's the time to be doing that. One of the other things outside, Tony, that we've talked about on the show many, many times is to look at your caulking and peeling paint. Take a look at your home from a different perspective. Walk around and look at it like you don't own it. Like maybe you're looking to buy it. How would you pick that apart and look at the different situations? Or is the caulking starting to shrink? Is the paint starting to peel? Now's the time to be looking at that stuff. That way you're ready to go when you have a nice day and you're thinking to yourself, I need to get some home improvement projects done right now. What do I need to get done? Well, if you don't know about your paint peeling and your caulking that's all need to be replaced, So now check that out now.
Yeah, and let's just say a couple of things about that. If you have determined that you need to replace some of the caulking on the outside of your home, you have to remove all of that. You have to peel the old caulking off, expose the gap between your siding and your trim board or whatever it is you're caulking, and then apply new caulking. You can't leave the old stuff on there and expect the new stuff to do its job.
You make a good point.
Yeah, you got to get the old stuff off. Same thing goes with paint. If you've got peeling paint or thin paint, don't just shoot new paint over it. If you've got peeling paint, you got to get all that old paint off, the loose stuff. And I'm not telling you to sand down the whole house or even a big patch. You just want to get the loose stuff off using some type of a scraper or maybe some a sanding block or some heavy duty, sandpaper, and just knock it down, get the loose stuff off before you put your new coat on. And if you can see wood through your paint because it's thin, you definitely need to get more coats of paint on there. It's not doing its job if it's not a solid coated surface.
Yeah, and we've said this before, your paint is only as good as the substrate you're painting it onto. So if, like you said, if it's all peely and, bubbly, if you paint new stuff over that, it's not going to stick to the wood.
It's not.
It's sticking to that bubble.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Corey, spring outside, I get all that. But you know what? Spring, this is also the time that we promote a thorough, deep clean. And some of that spring cleaning needs to take place inside the house. I'm not saying you want to be inside the house on your first spring day if it's nice outside or whatever, but it still needs to happen. This is the time to do it. Pick your weekend. Maybe it is next weekend. If you've heard the show, you've been reminded, spring starts on Wednesday. Plan your very next weekend, this weekend. Make it a spring cleaning weekend. And this is some tips that Corey and I have given in the past that we stand behind completely. A really successful cleaning day starts with planning, right? All of the people that you're going to need to be a part of the plan, right, need to be informed. Let them know that this is the day. If you've got kids, a spouse, and everybody's going to be working to accomplish a lot of tasks in a short period of time, like a day or two, let them know ahead of time. This is what's going on. And you know what? It doesn't hurt to offer a bit of a reward for people that are helping you. Maybe I'm calling Corey. Hey, Corey, I've got some spring cleaning to do at my house. I'm not going to be able to do it by myself. I need some help. If you will come over and help me, if you'll give me 4 hours or 6 hours, I will feed you lunch. I will feed you dinner. And after, a little Oculus Rift, maybe.
That's a good.
You see what I'm saying?
After all that work, you'd be too tired.
I know what Corey wants. I'm saying I know how to lure him over to make him work for me at my house. Because I know what he wants. Find out what your family wants and offer it to them. And then the next thing to do is get out to the store and buy all the things you're going to need. You're going to need some rags, get some window cleaner, maybe some 409. You're going to need maybe some Resolve for the carpet. You're going to need vacuum bags for your vacuum cleaner. These types of things that are required to do the cleaning. Just a couple of rolls of paper towels and these types of things, right? Be prepared. Have the stuff you need. Garbage sacks. You need extra garbage sacks. You're probably going to have to make a run to, who knows, Goodwill maybe. This is all the things that come along with a really deep clean. But we're going to talk about a lot of the things inside the house that you need to address.
Yeah, a very successful project is the best planned project.
Absolutely.
And everybody knows this, that if you've started a project, you think you got everything and you get going on it. And next thing you know, you're like, oh, shoot, I got to run to the store.
Yeah.
I'll be back in an hour.
I forgot Clorox wipes.
Yeah, I'll be back in an hour. You know what I mean? It always takes an hour, no matter what. You could run across the street, and I swear it takes an hour.
Yeah.
So it's going to kill your day. But like you said, the best plans, when you have a good project and a good plan, they get done.
Plan the day.
Planning ahead.
Plan the attack and shop ahead of time and make sure everybody's informed.
So let's go over this list. We've got a great spring cleaning list that we've been compiling over the years.
Yeah, and it always starts at the front door. You walk in the front door into your house.
Into your foyer.
Into your entry, yeah, your entry there. And these are the first things that everyone sees that comes to your house. And you need to address these things. Here's the first thing. There's a light on the ceiling when you walk in. There's always a light on the ceiling when you walk into your entry. Guess what? It needs to be cleaned. You need to take the the glass cover or whatever it is that's on there down, wash it, check the light bulb, make sure that they're both working. Maybe you need to replace them. If they're not LED, this is a really good time to start putting LED lights in your house. You need them. Replace the light bulbs if it's necessary. Check and make sure that there hasn't been any burn marks around your light, like underneath your light bulb. If you're burning a 100-watt light bulb that's not a LED light, like an incandescent bulb, in a fixture that's intended to have a 60-watt bulb, and it's not probably prepared for that kind of heat, and sometimes it can cause little damage, even some of that can burn. If that's happening, then that's a tip that you're using a bulb that's getting too hot, and you need to fix that. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about more in-depth cleaning inside the house, spring cleaning. You're listening to Tony and Corey, your weekend warriors. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, here's a quick tip for you when you're using extension cords. If you have to plug in one of your tools, a good thing to do is to tie the ends around like that and plug them in. So that way, if you're working with your tool and you get to the end of your extension cord, it just doesn't unplug, or if it gets caught on something. So that'll help you stay more productive. Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. Thanks for staying with us. If you haven't already, go check us out on all of our social media that we've got out there now. We're all over Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Our YouTube subscriber list is growing.
Yes.
We are recording this right now, so you can come in and watch Tony and I record our Weekend Warriors home improvement show right here in our new studio that we've built.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing that all year. We're going to be doing how-to videos and putting those up there. So if you're interested in that, go to YouTube and search the Weekend Warriors. We're all over Instagram and Facebook at WW Home Show. Probably the easiest thing to do, though, is to go to our website. We have a new website out this year. It's www.homeshow.com. Or if you'd rather email us, you can shoot us an email at weekendwarriors@parr.com. That's Parr.com.
And of course, you can always go to parr.com, Parr.com. Click on the Weekend Warriors link. We got all our information is on there.
Totally.
Absolutely love to hear from you. We want you to like and subscribe and follow and all of those things. Because we love to know that there's people out there that care about what we're talking about. And
keep up to date on what we're doing. If you ever have any questions or comments, we love to get that stuff.
We love to be engaged by our listeners. We love it. That's good stuff. Okay, right now we're talking about deep cleaning, spring cleaning, deep cleaning inside the home. We walked into the house. First thing we saw was a light. It needs to be cleaned. Take the cover off, clean it, change the bulbs, all that stuff. What's next, Corey? What else is there?
You know, when you're standing there at your entry mat, it's probably a good time to replace that thing. If it's old and worn out and full of mud, you can either rinse it off, clean it, or you can just buy a new one.
At the very least, you've got to take it out and shake it out. Here's the thing. These rugs are meant to trap particles that come off the bottoms of your shoes. Sometimes they're big particles, sometimes they're smaller. They can get full and they stop being effective. Your shoes, when you walk over the mat, it removes the particles. You leave the mat, you don't track it into the house, right? Well, when the mat can't hold any more stuff, you're just going to track it in the house. You got to keep that thing cleaned or shook. Sometimes if you wash them in the washing machine and dryer, they start to fall apart, and then you're definitely going to end up replacing it. At the very least, take it outside, beat it up against a post or the ground out there, and just get that stuff out of it. This is a good time to do that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Look at the walls in the entry right there. This is a place where people take off their shoes, take off their coats, and that kind of thing. And the walls tend to get beat up a little bit right there. Sometimes they just get dirty. Wash the walls right in that area. Check the trim. Wash the trim. Get your entryway nice and clean. It's the first thing people see when they come in. It's important that it's clean.
You know, the last time I did spring cleaning last year, the entryway in my home, all of the base trim was just really beat up from shoes and just whatever, walking in, bags and setting them down. So I repainted the trim around just in my entry area, my pretty small entry area,
Mm-hmm.
and it made a huge difference.
Fresh coat of paint makes a big difference. This is also a good place. I know this is really not what we're talking about. This is a good place to add wainscot right in your entryway. Maybe you haven't decided, or maybe you don't have
Who's
wainscot.
Wayne?
Yeah, he's my buddy.
His
Wainscot.
Probably ugly.
There's lots of coats there, but wainscot might not be. This is a add durability to the walls in your entryway. A 4x8 sheet turned sideways, maybe some ceiling bead type of a pattern on there, with a chair rail on top of it, makes a really nice entryway. So consider that. Maybe add some durability and strength to the walls in your entry.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Moving on, going into the rest of your home, now's a good time to air out your bedrooms.
Yeah.
When was the last time you had your windows open, just wide open? We like to do that in our home occasionally. Open up all the windows and just air out the whole house.
Yeah. Fresh air is a good thing. It's nice to have fresh air. Anytime it's not super cold and rainy outside, we like to have the windows open as well. It's a good thing to do. You're going to be checking your screens, cleaning your screens, washing your windows. Get them opened up, and let's get some fresh air in the house. It's nice. I like that.
When I think of spring cleaning, I think of really deep clean, and think about all of the areas that you don't typically get to. Pull out your nightstands, clean behind them, clean underneath them. When was the last time you vacuumed the carpet under your bed?
Yeah, when I built my bed.
Yeah, exactly. Pull that thing away from the wall. All of that dust in there, you just don't want. Keeping it clean. Look at the tops of all of the furniture that's up against the wall.
Especially your tall furniture.
Yeah, the tall furniture. I'll guarantee you there's probably some dust bunnies on there
that
you don't want.
Here's another one. You're touching them all the time. Clean hands, dirty hands, other people's hands, kids' hands. Clean your light switch plates and your doorknobs. They get neglected because you just don't think about it. They're very utilitarian type items, but you got your grimy, grubby hands on them all the time, and other people do too. Clean your doorknobs and your light switches. Plates.
That's a very good idea. Your lampshades.
Yes, lampshades. They definitely dust collectors without question.
People forget the lampshades, and it's not like you can wash them. You really got to be careful and take your time. I like to use microfiber. I know we've had people on the show talk about the negatives of microfiber is that the fabric that it's actually made out of is made out of oil-based products like, plastics and polyester and those things. So when they're tiny like that, they break off in the wash and get into our rivers and lakes and streams.
Yikes.
Could be a bad deal, but they work really well for cleaning.
Yeah.
Certain areas.
They are micro, after all.
Micro.
They're very small, but maybe they cause big problems. We're not trying to tell you that microfiber is safe necessarily. We're just saying it does a good job when you use it.
Man, might be might something to look closer into.
A lot of people, honestly, simply are newspaper, newspaper and I don't know, Windex or water maybe. People use newspaper to clean their windows. You actually told me that you use sometimes newspaper to clean your windows.
Newspaper is the best window cleaner ever.
Very inexpensive. It's a lot less expensive than buying microfiber.
Like automobile purists will use like distilled water and newspaper to clean their windows.
Wow. Yeah, that's
no chemicals and no, terry cloth fibers getting everywhere inside your vehicle.
Yeah. Deep clean means doing all the things that you wouldn't normally do. So, you've got to get right in there and get everything done. Mirrors on the wall, right? Who's the craziest of them all? Mirrors on the wall need to be cleaned, really properly cleaned. And another thing, the art that we hang on the walls. I think whether it's just a picture or a painting or whatever it is, framed artwork on the wall collects dust. And you got to get up there, clean off the top and the face. Here's something else, Corey, and I don't even see it on the list, but I'm telling you, dust collects on textured walls.
Oh, it absolutely does.
And you don't even realize it unless you get right up there close and look at it. You can see literally dust collecting right on the texture of a wall. You need to wash your walls. It needs to be done. That's what deep cleaning is about.
Well, I tell you what, wash washing your walls, if they're flat, flat sheen, or, even sometimes eggshell sheen, is very difficult. If you've ever heard of washable flat paint, it's probably because it's eggshell or satin even.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you want to wash your walls, typically you would wash them in a bathroom or in a high use area. That's where you'd want to use semi-gloss paint to begin with. That'll make them easier to clean.
Floor registers and other vent covers, those things like the vent in the bathroom, the exhaust fan in the bathroom, those things collect a lot of dust. Get those things, vacuum, spray, brush, wipe, whatever you got to do, get that clean.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that all the dust that gets into your bathroom fan is probably like toilet paper fibers.
Yeah, fibers.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. But it definitely collects there and it needs to be cleaned. Same thing goes with your dryer vent. Your dryer vent and that dryer vent pipe collects a lot of stuff.
Oh,
It's
absolutely right.
actually flammable too. You want to get that stuff out of there.
So we've talked about this before, but would you ever wax your bathtub?
You know what? I'm not even going to grace that with an answer. Instead, we're going to go to a break and we'll talk about it when we come back. You listen to Tony and Corey. Your weekend warriors don't go away.
Here's another tip with your caulking. You've got a brand new tube, you've just cut the tip off, and you need to puncture that little piece of foil. You take this piece here, or you can take a nail, anything, old screw. What you want to do is when you put it in the tip like that, you want to run it around in a circular motion and really widen that up. Because if you just puncture it with one little hole, that foil inside there is really tough. And a lot of times when you put pressure on the end of the caulking gun with the caulking will want to worm out and fill that void, and it's going to be really difficult to gun. So if you've ever had a new tube of caulk that you've put in your caulking gun and it's really hard to come out, check that you've really opened that foil up. We're good to go. Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. Thanks for staying with us. Today we're talking about spring cleaning right now, and we've been running through the house in different areas that kind of get left off. When you think about spring cleaning, you dig in deep and you get all behind the everywhere.
You asked me before we went to the break very odd question. And I guess it caught me off guard a little bit because I didn't really know where you were going with it, but obviously we talked about this during the break, and so I'm up to speed now. But you said to me, would you ever wax your tub? My first thought was, if I wax my tub, I'm gonna be on my back, whether I want to be or not. I don't want to be falling down on my tub, and a newly waxed tub I would think would be very slippery. Here's the thing. If I did wax my tub, for the reasons that you're gonna tell me why, I would need to just make sure that I re-added some new grip tape or a mat in there that gave me traction under my footsies so that I didn't fall. But let's talk about why somebody would wax an old tub.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't wax my tub either, but I guess if you have an old tub and it starts seeing age, you get a lot of soap scum on there. That stuff's hard to clean off, especially when the surface starts to get a slight rough.
Yeah, rough feeling. Yeah, I mean, I've been in a tub that had that same problem where the porcelain sort of started to wear away, and it's super rough right there. I can't imagine trying to keep the stuff that grows in your tub clean in that area. So I've never waxed a tub or had the need to that I'm aware of, but I think that if I was dealing with that type of a situation and couldn't afford to replace it, waxing it sounds like a pretty good option.
Yeah,
so,
I think you'd probably just want to be super, super careful, getting in a wet, waxed tub.
Yeah. Yikes.
Seems crazy to me, but I guess some people probably would do it.
Here's the thing. In the kitchen, there's a lot of deep cleaning to be done in the kitchen. And it can start with the drawers and the doors of your cabinets. Stuff gets in there. You got to empty it. Here's the thing. You got to empty it. You got to get all that stuff out. You got to clean the shelves underneath all of those dishes and then put the dishes back in. Sometimes, Corey, we pull all those dishes out and we go to clean that shelf that we've been putting our cups on. And sometimes we put our cups in there upside down because, they're still maybe a little wet from the from the dishwasher. put them upside down, and then you take it out and you put your mouth right on it. And then you go to clean that shelf and you're like, oh, grody. I have been literally, you might as well just get up there and lick that shelf because that's what you're doing. You're putting your cup upside down in that grime, which you can't even see because it's above eye level, and then you're just putting it in your mouth. A gross. I'm just saying.
Here's one thing I'm going to say that you should not ever put a glass upside down in a cabinet, because here's the thing. If you're putting it in there wet, it's going to seal it off and it's going to stay wet. I actually had this situation where we were emptying the dishwasher and I had 2 cups that were kind of
stuck together.
No, still a little damp.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But they're stackable. So I stacked them and we put them away. And then I got one out later on, like a week later, when one of the kids wanted milk. So I got the cup out, I pulled the thing out, and the smell of mildew coming out of that cup.
Yikes.
And you looked in there and it was rimmed with black mold because it was just soaking wet, closed off, sitting in the cabinet for however long, growing mold. It was gross.
Another really good example of why you need to clean the shelves in your cabinet. It's gross. You don't know what's in there. It just needs to be done. This is what deep cleaning is about. Do the things you don't want to do. Empty the drawers, take all the silverware out, clean the drawer, put the silverware back, cupboard after cupboard after cupboard after drawer after drawer. That's what you got to do.
Yep.
All of that's got to be done. Push the clean button on your oven, your range, right? Those are self-cleaning a lot of times, most of the time. If it's not, yikes, don't want to be you. But if it is, use the self-clean function and get that thing cleaned. What about your range hood?
Yeah, time to get that thing cleaned up. The amount of grease that's probably on there would shock you.
We heard from a listener about this. He had a range hood, and I wasn't even that old, right? It wasn't that old, and it was hooked up properly to the vent that goes up to the roof vent, just like it's supposed to be. All hooked up right. But it had been, grease had been going up into the flue, sucking up into the flue, and it was literally gooping or gathering inside there to the point where it was dripping out.
Yeah.
And he got in there and pulled that thing apart and found a thick coat of nasty organic grease in his range hood. Wow.
Somebody made a lot of French fries.
Nasty. Anyway, yeah, I love to hear those stories. Gross.
Yeah. So now's the time to get that thing cleaned up. Little 409 in there, wipe it down. Now's a good time to sharpen your kitchen knives.
Yeah,
I like to keep mine pretty sharp, so I sharpen them weekly, really, honestly.
No, I don't. I definitely don't. If my favorite kitchen knife has stopped cutting the way I want it to cut,
You throw it away.
I replace it.
That's stupid.
Hey, but you know what? I don't replace the microwave. I clean it. So clean the inside of the microwave. You don't realize when you're putting stuff in there, if it doesn't have a lid or you don't put a napkin on it and it gets hot, it pops. And that stuff goes all over the top of that.
How do you not realize that?
Because I'm 6'4" and my microwave is at about 42 inches off the ground.
So you open the microwave and all you see is your food, so you just take it out, not caring what
I'm not saying
exploded onto the
out
roof
of
of your...
sight, out of mind is what I'm saying. This is an opportunity to get in there and clean the inside of your microwave.
So I guess I'm lucky because mine is more eye level with me. Mine's about 5.5 feet off the ground.
Yeah,
6 feet.
yours is up high.
Really high.
Yeah, yours is way up high.
So when you take the food out of there, you're
looking
see
at the top of your microwave, so you're grossed out regularly.
I keep it clean.
I can't see mine, so I don't think about it. But that's a good thing to do. And your toaster, clean your toaster.
Yeah.
When
was the last time you turned that thing upside down? And
you've probably got enough crumbs in the bottom of your toaster to have breaded chicken. So collect all the crumbs in the bottom of your toaster. And,
panko.
A little bit of egg and your chicken breast, and you've got
Here's a huge one. Go through your pantry. When was the last time you went through the pantry and threw everything out that was dated before 1998?
I got some peaches in there from 1992, but I'm telling you, they're good. I just know they are.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'm gonna have a cobbler, and I'm gonna be like, I'm glad I saved those peaches. Yeah,
Gross.
You're right. You got to definitely FIFO your pantry. First in, first out. And if it's getting old, get rid of it or give it to the dog.
Well, and it's always a good idea to go through there more than once a year, right? And look at the things that are potentially going expired and use them up.
Here's another thing.
Wasteful.
This takes a lot of time and it's a lot of work and nobody wants to do it, but this is time to thaw out your freezer. and let all that built up frost inside your freezer. Get all that stuff out, clean that thing, put your stuff back in there. It's a big deal. If you've only got one freezer, it's super hard to do. You got to eat everything that's in there first. But cleaning your freezer, and then get underneath the fridge or behind the fridge where those coils are, and suck all that lint and stuff that's gathered around the coils on your fridge also.
Yeah, that is one thing to keep in mind, because if the coils on your refrigerator are super, super dirty, your refrigerator is working extra hard to keep the inside of the refrigerator cold. So it's working overtime, and it's going to decrease the life of your refrigerator.
Yeah, absolutely. Clean the glass on your china hutch or your entertainment center if you've got one in your family room. Get the dust all around the base of the TV stand and all that stuff in the entertainment center. Get in there, pull all of your audio equipment out, clean that, vacuum the back of it, because all of that stuff is in the same. It all has fans. It all requires cooling. And when those fans are turning and it's cooling, it's sucking stuff, in there. And so clean all the dust off of that stuff so that it'll operate for you better.
Yeah, it's just like your surround sound stereo system that's in your cabinet. It's just like a computer. It's going to have fans in there. And if you've ever cleaned out your computer cabinet and you realize when you open that thing up, it's full of dust, same things happen to all your electrical equipment.
It's also time to check your sofa piggy bank and take all the cushions off of your sofa, turn it upside down, get that change that's collected there from all of the days that it's been, and suck up all those Doritos and all those food crumbs that are in your sofa. You have got a new sofa, so you don't have to worry about that.
I don't.
But this is the time to definitely deep clean your sofa and your chairs, your armchairs and your couch and all that stuff.
Yeah, moving into the laundry room. Now would be a good time to replace the hoses on your washer.
That's right.
Replacing the hoses on your washer is super important because they actually recommend you replace them once a year. So if you haven't ever replaced them, you probably want to do that before you have a catastrophic failure and a gigantic flood.
Yep, absolutely. If you have a ceiling fan in your house anywhere, you've got to get up there on a stool and clean the tops of the fan blades. It gets mist all the time, and that's just constantly distributing. Every time you turn it on, it just distributes that dust back inside your house. You got to get that stuff off there. All right, we're out of time. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been another episode of Your Weekend Warriors right here
on the Weekend Warriors Radio Network.
Have a great week.